I love that people are understanding why they feel what they feel in deeper ways. But there's a part that I rarely hear talked about, and that's what I want to discuss on this live. So welcome, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Like I said, I was on YouTube. I recorded this teaching 3 separate times, and each time nothing got recorded. So I believe that I must have needed to be here. Hey, greetings, greetings. So if you're listening to the replay, please do consider following me. Consider subscribing. Consider sharing the video. If shadow work is your thing and you've been really on your healing journey, then you don't want to miss this, okay? And I'm going to do my best to post this on YouTube, but I've been experiencing problems getting videos off of this app, so there's that. Can't promise you anything, okay? So if you're new to shadow work, let's just briefly describe what the shadow is. In short, your shadow is anything about yourself that you don't know. These can be beautiful things. These can be things that you deem unacceptable. Either way, it's stuff about yourself that you don't know. The thing about the shadow is it wants to be made aware. It wants to come to your awareness, I should say, because it's part of your healthy and happy life. It's part of what is going to enrich your life. It's parts of yourself that want to come on deck and be part of your energy, part of your conscious frequency. Now, you don't know these things, right? You don't know these things about yourself. Like I said, it could be beautiful things. It could be not so beautiful things, but they're still affecting your everyday life. These things are still affecting the way that you see the world, still affecting the way you move in the world, how you react, things of this nature. So it really should behoove us to want to know all parts of ourselves and not be in denial of any part, yet still we have to do some work. Now, most people, let me tell you what most people do and see if you fit in this category, right? Most people are becoming aware that emotions are important, very important. And because they have begun to realize the importance of emotions, they also have begun to understand the reasons that these emotions are there in the first place. Like, where did it begin? I can hear people say, well, this goes back to my childhood when my parents didn't allow me to speak up, or this goes back into my childhood where I was bullied in school. So we can go back and we can trace back where these emotions began, right? And I love that. But most people stay there. They stay there just at awareness, and they stay at just understanding. Most people can tell you, yes, I feel angry. Yes, I feel bothered. Yes, I feel excited. And they can even tell you why. But most people don't know what to do from there, especially with the negative parts. And so that's what I want to talk about. I want to focus on what we call the negative aspects of the shadow. And we want to not only understand how we feel in the current space, we want to understand where that pattern of emotion and thought developed, yes. But then we also need to understand how the experiences we have had go forward and impact our choices, how the experiences impact our belief systems, how our experiences impact our expectations, how have our experiences impacted the way that we move with people, how have they impacted our suspicion, how have they impacted our levels of self-trust, how have they impacted the ways that we see others and interpret events around us. We need to know all of this. So it's great to know what you're feeling, and it's great to know where that feeling began, but also you need to understand how this has moved on your timeline forward and affected things in your world on different levels. And I just gave you a lot of questions. If you didn't take them down, I hope to get this video on YouTube so you can practice, I also have an ebook on my website. It's called the Self Intimacy Workbook. It's a beginner's guide to self discovery. If you want to start really being intimate with yourself, I highly suggest the strategies I put in that book. I also highly suggest that you use those strategies to understand the people around you. I also suggest that as you meet people and you want to grow closer, that you explore the questions and the answers together. That's on my website at VeronicaMarie.com. So let us continue. So not only do you need to know how you feel, and not only do you need to trace it back to the first time you felt that and the many times after that, you need to understand how your experiences have affected you on various levels throughout your life. Then you need to look at the patterns. Okay. Where are you seeing similar patterns in your choices, right? And that's important because if you see the patterns, you probably still see them. Okay, this is the process of becoming more aware. You probably still see them in your present life. But that's not the part that most people miss. A lot of people miss this too, but that's not what I'm getting at. I'm just giving you some nuggets in there, right? So when you are wanting to really progress through shadow work, you need to come away from perpetual inner child healing. Yes, we do need to understand our childhood, right? But we need to understand our adulthood as well. In adulthood, if you have reached a reasonable level of self-awareness where emotions are concerned, then people usually apply coping mechanisms. What do I mean by that? Coping mechanisms are short-term strategies meant to get you from point A to point B, but they are not long-term emotional strategies. This is what a coping mechanism sounds like. It could be positive thinking. And when I think about my past, I realize that these things needed to happen because I needed to grow. All right. How do you know whether or not that's a coping mechanism? Well, if you are still feeling some negative way about what you're talking about and you're trying to convince yourself of the positivity of it, then you're applying a coping mechanism. If you are looking at like people in your past who have behaved a certain way and you still don't really know what to do with them in the present, how to move with them in the present in a healthy way, but you say things like, they were doing the best that they could, and you know what, but it's okay because now I can take care of myself. They did the best that they could, but you know what, it's okay. Now I can best that they could, and you know what, but it's okay because now I can take care of myself. They did the best that they could, but you know what, it's okay. Now I can listen to my let me know if you can still hear me because my phone started ringing. How do we know whether or not that's a coping strategy? Because you still feel some negative kind of way, and this is almost like a Band-Aid. Applying a coping strategy, expecting it to be a long-term fix, is like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping hole in your body. Okay? Can you hear me? I want to know. I need to stop because my phone rang and I don't know if it took away my sound. Tap the screen if you can hear me, or just respond so I can know. Okay, perfect. So coping strategies may work initially. They may help you feel better initially. But then if you still have interaction with the person in your present days, the coping strategy is going to become less and less effective. Okay, that's how you also know it's a coping strategy. If it worked at first and you were very proud, like, oh, I'm so proud I didn't respond like I normally would have. I didn't go down into despair like I normally would have. I'm growing. That's perfect, right? But after a while, that coping mechanism will start to feel draining, but because you have to keep coping and there's no real resolution or integration within your being. This is especially important when people in your past have been involved in hurtful situations with you and they're still in your present now. You still have to see them. You still have to deal with them, and you don't know what to do about it. So that positive thinking is a thing. Isolation is another thing. You have to be around the people for whatever reason. Maybe you work with them. Maybe they live in your house or your neighborhood or your child's school, whatever it is. And so either you try to positive think your way into a better mood, or you isolate. You try to avoid them at all costs. This is coping. Coping was never meant to be a long-term strategy. It's temporary until you find out what the long-term strategy is. So if you are identifying the ways that you are still coping in your life, then you've been doing a great job. Okay? You've been building up to a certain point, but there's more. But there's more. Another thing people do is they just want to speak their mind. It's a coping mechanism, right? They're tired of being suppressed. They're tired of holding things in. They're tired of caring about other people's feelings. When they don't care about mine, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do that, right? But how do you know whether or not that's coping? Because you don't really feel satisfied with that. You feel drained. It doesn't feel emotionally satisfying. And the more you have to do it, the less you want to do it. That's a coping mechanism, okay? So I hope you are listening and identifying the ways that it's time for you to move forward in your shadow work. There's levels to shadow work here, right? And I'm here for the person who's ready to go beyond the coping mechanisms. Okay. So is any of this making sense? Tap the screen. Let me know, because I'm here to help you live a healthier and a happier life. And part of that is moving forward in your shadow work. Of course, you want to ask yourself deep questions. You want to answer the deep questions, but what do you do with it after that? That is the integration part. When you integrate something, you bring it into this current existence, this current life. You're not trying to leave it behind and forget about it. And I just got to stop doing this. And I just got to stop doing that. And I'm no longer that person anymore. Yes, you are that person, that experience, that psyche is still part of you, but you have to integrate it. Right? And leaving parts of yourself behind because you don't like them, leaving parts of yourself to be suppressed inside because that's not how you want to be seen is not integration. It's not going to bring you the long-lasting peace and sense of wellness that you really want. It's not bringing that because it's requiring you to diminish parts of yourself and uphold other parts. Well, that part is not worthy, but this part is. And then a lot of people, when you change and people start referring to your past, you get really mad and be like, I'm not that person anymore. Stop acting like I'm that person. That's a person who hasn't integrated. They still don't see the value. They still don't see the beauty, and neither do the people outside of them. And they get mad at the people outside of them as if the people outside of them are the problem. They are really just reflecting what you don't like about yourself still and how you're in denial that this part still exists in you. And you know it exists because you feel it. Yes, you might self-correct. Yes, you might redirect, but you still feel that self-hurting. You still feel that resentment. You still feel that bitterness, right? You still feel all of this. And if you want to grow, you're going to have to admit that, yes, this is a part of me. Now, if you don't admit that, it's still going to run your show. It's still going to make you have to positive think. It's still going to make you have to cope. It's still going to make you have to isolate. It's still going to make you have to find out how to be at peace when they so crazy or whatever. This is the result of suppressing your shadow. And you might say, well, no, I'm not suppressing because I'm aware, but have you integrated? Do you know what to do with it, right? You don't know what to say to the people in your life who you feel have wronged you. You don't know what to say when they are unable to resolve the thing that you want to resolve. You don't know what to do. You go into coping. I'm trying to help you realize that there is a next step. Now, remember I told you I recorded this same teaching about 3 times on YouTube, and neither time did it record. So I am very limited in my time right now, but it was never my desire to tell you how to integrate. And here's why. Because how you integrate depends on your personality. It depends on your skill set. It depends on your understanding and education. It depends on what you're looking for in the integration. It depends on the situation that was painful. That's highly individualized. So there's no broad stroke approach. This is how you integrate, right? But for certain, you need to identify the ways that you're still coping. Where are you still coping? And are you ready to move forward? So if the answer is yes, I'm still coping and I'm ready to move forward. Yes, I do all of that positive thinking and isolation and I feel drained. And yes, it's true. I don't know what to do. I want to move forward. One of the things you're going to have to do is either get a therapist, get a coach, or start researching some integration practices. How do I integrate my shadow? That's your next step. I offer one-on-one coaching. So if you want to sign up for coaching and we can customize this strategy according to your particular needs and desires, let's do it. You can go to my website, VeronicaMarie.com. But the purpose of this teaching was to help you to recognize whether or not you've been in coping, but thinking that you have actually been healing the shadow. This coping is part of it, but you must move beyond coping. You must grow beyond inner child work. Your inner child must become part of your adult life. And if you're still dealing in guilt, so let me throw some things out there for you. If you're still dealing with guilt in any relationship, think about your relationships. Do you feel guilt anytime you say what you want or say what you don't want, right? That's your shadow saying, I need to be integrated. Look at relationships where you still deal in shame because you said something or you believed something or didn't want to do something. You need integration. Think about dynamics where you go along to get along just so they'll be quiet. You need integration. Think about situations where you behave in inauthentic ways just to get people to be quiet. You need integration. Think about situations where you feel uncomfortable voicing your opinion. Even if the opinion is not hurtful, it could be something small. You just don't want to voice it. You need integration. Think about times where you just mouth off because you're so frustrated, you're so tired. You need integration. Okay. Think about times where you just go off the handle, right? You don't know how to resolve anything. You don't know how to come back, but you still got to deal with the people. So you sweep it under the rug, you normalize, and then act like nothing has happened until it comes back around. You need integration. So all of those are signs that integration really is a necessity in your life, because as long as you are suppressing your shadow and not integrating it, you are not living a full, rich life as you. You're living a segmented life. And there's nothing bad about this, because if you can identify the ways that you do this, then you can become empowered to stop doing it. But if you don't know you're doing this and you think that coping is the shadow work, then you got to keep repeating it. So and the reason I say this is because sometimes when I make people aware that they need more, they move into some kind of self-condemnation. They go, oh man, I thought I was healing. I thought I was doing the work. I thought you were, but there's levels to it. And I'm trying to upgrade you. I'm trying to up level you. I'm trying to enhance your experience. And if you're tired of coping and you're tired of being drained and you're tired of not resolving things and you're tired of not knowing what to do, it's time for some integration. Ashe, did y'all hear that? Did you understand it? Perpetual inner child healing will drain you, because when are you living in your adult full experience? When are you experiencing the joy of being a healthy, happy adult? When are you experiencing the interactions that come with being a healthy and a happy adult? You can't, because you're stuck in inner child work. And you say things like this. It goes back to, when I was a child, I couldn't speak my mind. And it goes back to when I was a child, nobody paid attention to me. And it goes back, and that's why I'm like this. That's cool. And you try to take care of yourself. So you be like, I'm going to take myself out on a date. I'm going to buy myself some clothes. I'm going to do this for myself because nobody else is going to do it. You take on that energy. You need some integration. It's true that you do need to do that for yourself, but it's not that you need to only do it for yourself. You need to grow to be able to share that with others. And so when you find that you are very suspicious and not trusting with other people, when you find that you're very closed and it's uncomfortable for you to receive things, it's uncomfortable for people to compliment you, it's uncomfortable for people to dote on you, it's uncomfortable for people to pay attention because you're scared or whatever. Maybe someone has held something over your head, maybe they've thrown something back in your face, or so you thought, and so you close up. You got a lot of boundaries around you, you're looking for red flags, you're trying to avoid. You need some integration, okay? Because nobody who's doing all those things is living a healthy and a happy life. They're living a secluded one. They're living an isolated one. But guess what? When you're isolated with yourself, you don't get to practice. So all the things that you think you want, you can never cultivate it, because you by yourself, you in your own head with your own information, and you're not expanding. Now, if you isolate and you're expanding into increased abilities to deal with others, to converse with others, relate with others, share with others, expand with others, then that's great. But if your isolation is causing you to like people less and less and less, I would say you need some integration, because when you do your shadow work, you become less bothered by other people. You need less boundaries. You become more skilled in moving fluidly with people. Shadow work doesn't make you hide behind boundaries. Shadow work doesn't make you set firm lines. You don't come past this line. It could, because that's part of it. But eventually you realize that I can take these boundaries up because I no longer need them. I have some natural boundaries. The natural boundaries are my intuition. So many people don't know the difference between their intuition and suspicion. So many people still don't trust themselves, right? So they need these boundaries to protect them. But after a while, the boundaries begin to be a blockade. It begins to be a level of self-sabotage. I hope you're hearing me. So I'm going to stop right there. Again, if you're new, welcome. If you are a regular part of my community, I love that you're here. I always do. I'm going to put this on YouTube. Again, I tried to record it 3 different times on YouTube. None of the times it recorded. So I think somebody needed this in real time. Someone is here now who needed this in real time. And I'm just going to say, ashe to that, right? So most people miss the integration piece. They stay in the awareness part. And let me tell you what else I hear people saying and doing that is coping. I know who I am. I know my worth. I know. Immediately I could tell that person needs integration. Because when you are integrated, right, there's no separation of self, of the past and the present self and who you're becoming, right? It's all one. So there's no need for compartmentalization. You just live as you are rather than assert, I know my worth and I want to be chosen and I want this. And the energy of that is screaming, I need integration because I've been coping and I'm frustrated. That's part of shadow work too, seeing where you have grown out of coping mechanisms that no longer serve you. You know what you value in terms of your worth by what you entertain. You have people around you doing all levels of things that you don't believe in, you don't agree with, but you're still being in interaction with them, trying to be close to them, trying to get to know them, trying to be in their space. Well, that's what you feel your attention is worth. So you could stand up and verbalize, I know my worth, but when you know your worth, then you be your worth and you direct it in places that value it. Ashe. If you're in spaces where you're being inauthentic because you don't know what else to do, am I saying just go be authentic now? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying recognize where you are going in inauthentic veins and discover integration so you can find out what to do for a healthier and a happier life. Right? I know what people feel about their own inherent value by what they entertain. So, what are you entertaining in your life? How are you reacting to it? How are you allowing it to pull you down into low spaces that you don't even want to be in? It's time for some integration. If you're confused about how to express yourself, you need integration. This whole teaching is helping you to identify where you need some integration or more of it. If you're still feeling some kind of way because someone doesn't see you as you really are, you need some integration. That's not condemnation, that's truth. You need integration. I'm trying to help you assess your need for growth, right? So that you can actually have the healthy and happy life that you really desire. Now I'm done. Ashe. Please consider subscribing. If you are listening on YouTube, please consider subscribing there as well. Get my recent ebook. It's on my website, VeronicaMarie.com. And if you want some one-on-one coaching on the topic of integration, let me know.